I hope that you got to spend time with your friends and your family after what was, frankly, an absolutely brutal last week. The fallout of the Charlie Kirk assassination continues. We're going to give you the absolute latest on that. We'll also continue to take your calls and talkbacks. Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee is going to join us in the third hour as Trump has announced that he is calling the National Guard out for Memphis, Tennessee, which is, according to a lot of data sets out there, the most violent city in America on a per capita basis. We will talk about that. But, Buck, I would say this. I was in Knoxville, Tennessee for the Georgia-Tennessee football game, which was a great game until Tennessee shanked a kick to lose. Governor Brian Kemp immediately texted me right after. He was like, boy, great. He's a huge Georgia Bulldog fan. Great game. Like, thanks, Governor. I'm a big Tennessee fan, but people came up to me, Buck. Everybody who came up to me wanted to talk about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
No, I mean, at the game where 99.9% of the time when I'm at a football game, people want to almost exclusively talk about sports. Everybody who came up to me wanted to talk about Charlie Kirk and the impact that he had on their life and what I think is the continued fallout of, I have to be honest with you, Buck, I knew that there would be a segment, because there always is on social media, of people that are awful and react to tragedy by celebrating and marinating in the awfulness. I'm still stunned about the extent of the celebratory reaction to his assassination. And I didn't have high expectations for how the left would respond. But when I see the number of people who are teachers, talking about, not university professors, certainly a lot of university professors, which I'm less surprised by because we've kind of seen this a lot.
District attorneys, pediatric nurses,
doctors.
You know what this is showing you? Everybody in every profession out there is possibly an anti-Charlie Kirk loon. Like, you can't say, oh, well, this person operates in the real world, so they would never. I can trust my doctor. I could trust my next door neighbor. No, you don't know until you know whether somebody has failed this most basic test of morality. I think that's what's so. It's one thing, Clay, to see the usual imbeciles in the media, and they're all losing ground. They're all losing relevance. That's been going on.
Yes.
So it's not surprising. It's still grotesque, but not surprising for them. What I think, though, is such a shock to people is the widespread nature of this, that there are so many people out there who are just like everyday people. That's what they're just, could be a homemaker, could be somebody who runs a local hardware store, and they're saying absolutely insane things in response to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who was, as we've talked about, not just a political and social phenomenon, but a dad, a husband, a son, somebody who was incredibly decent and kind to people. So that I think has been something of an awakening. It does remind me, Clay, a little bit of after 9/11. I just from my own political awakening and why I decided, like, why did I go in the CIA and not go into Wall Street like all my peers did? And it was in part because after 9/11, one, we had been attacked, but two, I had a recognition that there were a lot of people around the world and here at home who after 9/11, their attitude was, we got what was coming to us. Yeah. We deserved it. Or there even should be, if you're talking about globally, there should be more of it. And so there was a literal call to arms for so many of us to go and fight. I think this is for conservatism here at home. This is also turning into a moment of clarity that we won't be able to shake. Now, it's a clarion call in some ways, right? It's like we're all now recognizing. You mentioned this, Clay. I went across the street. Clay and I are here in New York. Went across the street to get a coffee, and someone came up to me and said, "I love what you guys are doing." And he said, "I'm so sad about Charlie." And he said, "You need to keep doing what you're doing." Yeah, Charlie would want that. That's part of what I'm hearing from everybody too. He was our friend, but he was also our peer. We were on the same team. What we wanted for the country is what Charlie wanted for the country, and so I'm hearing that from a lot of people as they come up to me. But we have to understand the reality of the opposition and where they are on these things, and the lack of decency and the lack of basic morality, and we have to confront this.
100% all of that is true. It's also important, and we're going to do our absolute best to keep you updated on all of the details. I'm sure you saw they have put, I think they recognize on the left that a lot of normal people, let's leave aside the crazy celebrations, I think a lot of normal people who are apolitical, the idea that you would celebrate a dad getting assassinated at a free speech event, it does turn off huge segments of, let's call, just the normal people in America who aren't paying attention to politics on a daily basis, but just say, my God, you're celebrating pure evil. Whatever you think about Charlie, he's got a 3-year-old, he's got a 1-year-old, he's got a widow now. The idea that anybody would celebrate any dad's death ever, I think for both of us as dads, is just awful. I mean, just leave aside all of the rest of it. They recognize, I think there's a recognition on some elements of the left that they can't turn off the crazy in their party. And so they have tried to argue, and I think we should dive into some of this. Oh, this guy was actually a right winger. And they have, and you probably have heard some of this. And I think we need to address this in detail, because there is a concerted effort to just
rewrite the history in real time.
Why the motivation of this killer, of this assassin.
A big thing that we haven't gotten to, a big reveal from over the weekend, is that it has been reported from multiple sources and confirmed from high up that the shooter, the assassin, was in a romantic relationship with a transitioning, as in a trans individual. Now, that trans individual is cooperating with the FBI at last reporting, but that, I think, goes to ideology, it goes to motive, it goes to our understanding of this guy was in a relationship with a trans person. I mean, yes. Physical, like a romantic relationship with a trans person. And the more you dig into the ideology, the more this aligns with he was not trans, but the single, Clay, this goes back for a long time. I was told by one of the National Review guys, I won't say who it was, but I actually like a lot of those guys. I know some of them have gone a little anti-Trump, but some of them are very good dudes. But I was told by one of them a long time ago, I'm talking a decade ago, that he'd been writing for decades. He himself had been working in this politics commentary for decades. He said he was shocked at how he got more death threats writing about the trans issue than anything else, than cops and race issues, than abortion, than the trans issue was the thing that got, and this was going back now many years. This was like Obama administration era, and I never forgot that. And we're seeing now, if you're looking for left-wing radicalism, if you're looking for what is the center of that challenge, that problem, that dragon that must be dealt with here, it is the trans issue, and at a lesser level, I think some of the cop and race stuff that comes up. But those are the two that will get you people on the left who will go the most violent, the fastest. Isn't it also interesting about climate change, which they told us was an existential threat? No one even thinks about this anymore.
Yeah.
My point is that they shift from one delusion to another, and this is the delusion of the moment that they will become violent over.
There are a lot of evidence points out there, and again, the FBI is in the process of going through this, that suggests that multiple members of the trans community were posting that Charlie was going to get killed at this location at this point in time. Now, how often does that happen? I think it's fair to say, is this occurring when they're regularly? In other words, are there lots of people when he's speaking at X university that are going on social media and saying, well, something's going to happen there? I think that's fair to say. But these posts were up that are saying something is happening. He's going to get killed at this location. And the FBI is now investigating whether this may have been a part of a larger plan. Again, remember, he was shot as the question was being asked about.
The timing of it felt way too big a coincidence for it to actually be a coincidence. And I know that was asked of Deputy Bongino on Fox this morning, and he said, all he can say, and he's right, is we're looking at it, we're looking at everything, and that is what they're doing right now. But this is, Clay, I mean, I can tell you, when I was in the NYPD Intelligence Division, I would say 95, which is counterterrorism, and they've changed the terms, and now it's Bureau, but put all that aside. 98%, I want to say 100%, but I just don't want to be, that definitive, was jihadist terrorism. That's what we were working on. But you know that they had, just to be fair, just to make sure that everyone knew that they had a white supremacist cell there, group that looked at them. They were very bored. It had almost nothing to do and would always help us with our work. But they did assign people. Now, they also had people looking, to be fair, at Antifa stuff, too, because they had already started to become a violent group. But I'm saying, as somebody who's worked in counterterrorism, let me pose this question, which I'm obviously leading to an answer here. How many mass casualty, ideologically based attacks do we have to have before there is an understanding and a treatment of this issue as systemic, as in trans terrorism is a threat that the country must deal with and face now?
I think we're past that point by far, right? Which is where you're going.
Exactly. The FBI, this needs to be treated like a task force. This needs to be treated like with the urgency that it should have. And, we're going to have all the civil rights, and they're going to say, you're looking at this community. We went through this with the jihadist stuff. We've gone and they tried to go through this with Trump voters and January 6th, right? They used the counterterrorism apparatus against nonviolent grandmas who walked into a building that they were waved into, because we saw the video. I know there were some people who were violent with cops. A lot of people are violent with cops and don't even spend a single day in jail as long as they're Democrats.
Including the entire BLM era.
All of it, right? But we are at a point now, and this is why this is an ideological challenge for the country. We can't go past this. And I think that's what the assassination of our friend Charlie Kirk has made it inescapable for anyone who is paying attention. We have a real challenge here. It is widespread. This is the same thing, Clay, with jihadist ideology. There were the suicide bombers, but then there were the facilitators, and then there were the spiritual sanctioners, and then there were you go through these concentric circles of who is involved and who is pushing what and how are they a part of this movement. Go on Discord. Go online. You'll see a lot of people that are saying this stuff.
Reddit and Blue Sky is crazy.
It's insane. Blue Sky, the night of Charlie's assassination, I was on it. It was the most horrifying thing I've ever read in my life, honestly. It was completely insane. And now we're going to get into this First Amendment debate, right? They're going to say what's allowed, what's not. Well, incitement to violence is not allowed. Material support to terrorism is not allowed. We need to start looking at this issue with the same kind of focus that has been used at other times when we faced an ideological threat. And that is what we are under right now as a country. And that is just the truth. And I'll debate that issue with anybody who wants to debate it.